Last night, we witnessed one of the most devastating and shocking stories to emerge from the Trump administration. According to The Atlantic, an innocent man, a lawful permanent resident of the United States, was ripped from his home in Maryland and deported to a prison in El Salvador. Even more disturbing, the Trump administration knew they had made a terrible mistake, yet they proceeded anyway. This heartbreaking incident saw a father forcibly taken from his family, exposing the cruelty of Trump's immigration policies. It's truly reprehensible. And while Donald Trump remains silent, even some of his biggest supporters, like Marco Rubio and JD Vance, have tried to justify the decision. However, it's so outrageous that even major MAGA voices are condemning it, including Joe Rogan, who delivered a scathing critique of this immoral deportation plan. We'll check out that clip shortly, but before we do, please consider leaving a like on this video and subscribing if you haven't already. Your support means a lot and helps us continue covering these critical issues. Now, let's dive into this article and hear from Senator Cory Booker, who is currently filibustering on the Senate floor, addressing this very case. ADD clip here.
Every day we're hearing news stories of immigrants, some here legally, some awaiting trial, most charged with no crimes, being rounded up, detained, arrested, deported, often just disappeared. This is happening without charges, evidence, trials, hearings, without what the Constitution says, due process. This is what other governments done. We've talked about it in the Foreign Relations Committee. We complain about it to nations across the earth when they do not show due process, where they disappear people. Maybe you're an immigrant that's never broken the law. Maybe you're a citizen. Even if you think the administration's immigration agenda doesn't apply to you, please know that the reckless behavior we're seeing erodes all of our rights. And the American mother and the American child right now, whose husband was unjustly and illegally deported and is right now in an El Salvadorian prison, think about them. Denying due process is a slippery slope. We've seen it in other countries with democratic backsliding. It is a slippery slope. If people can be detained and deported without a hearing, detained and deported without due process, without seeing a judge, nothing will stop from slipping towards deporting others, making mistakes with an American.
This may be one of the worst and most heartbreaking actions we have seen from the Trump administration. What is happening right now is unthinkable, yet so few have spoken out against it. We are witnessing the erosion of democracy, where Donald Trump, without due process, can forcibly deport individuals, sending them to some of the most dangerous prisons in the world. And what is the basis for these decisions? Appearance alone. This is the terrifying reality outlined in this article right here. Trump team admits they deported an innocent man, and they don't care. The Trump administration has admitted that it mistakenly deported a man to a notorious prison in El Salvador due to an administrative error. Despite the government's repeated insistence, there were no errors in their flight determinations. A sworn statement filed last Tuesday from a top immigration and customs official said that the removal of a man from Maryland has been the result of an administrative error in 2019. This man, Abrao Garcia, was arrested, and although he was not charged with anything, he was served a notice to appear at a removal proceedings at the time. Abrego Garcia was denied bond because a confidential informant advised that he was a member of the MS-13 gang. According to a filing, no actual evidence of Garcia's gang membership was provided, though he was not, as Vice President JD Vance suggested on Twitter. A convicted member of MS-13 Garcia then filed an I-589 application for asylum, withholding of removal, and protection under the United States Convention Against Torture. He had come to the U.S. in 2011, fleeing threats of gang violence at the age of 16. According to The Atlantic, although he was found to be removable, the immigration judge granted him a withholding of removal, a protected legal status, meaning he could not be deported to El Salvador, or he would likely become a target for gang violence. This administration is costing innocent people their lives. And worse, they are admitting it while doing nothing to fix it. It's truly one of the most heartbreaking and disgraceful stories to come out of the Trump administration so far, and like I said, it was so egregious that even Joe Rogan spoke out against it. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
But the thing is, like, you got to get scared that people who are not criminals are getting like lassoed up and deported and sent to like El Salvador prisons, like that kind of shit. Because I read some story. Was it Glenn Greenwald?
It was.
Yeah. The gay barber guy.
Yeah.
It's scary, man.
Is that true? Is that story accurate?
I don't think we know.
Can you explain the story for people that don't know?
Well, from what I read, I think it was in Time magazine, Jamie. If you can pull it up, and maybe we can get it accurate. But basically, with a bunch of these Trinidad guys, allegedly they got at least one guy who wasn't a criminal, who was just a gay barber who I think, according to the story, came here legally. He was here legally. That's what they said. Don't know if it's true.
Did he have a green card?
I don't know what the details are. Maybe Jamie can find it.
No criminal record.
From what it said in that story. Now, this is the problem, right? Because the mainstream media has been putting out so much shit that I don't know what to believe anymore, right?
I feel the same way.
And so it's difficult, but it's something that we actually brought up in one of our conversations. We interviewed the guy from the Heritage Foundation. We brought this up because I think we talked about this with Doge as well. When you do things quickly and you do things aggressively, that's how you get shit done. But that's also when mistakes get made.
Right.
And I think a human being being plucked out of nowhere and ending up in a country he's never been in a maximum security prison with gang members, seems like a bad thing to happen to me.
It's horrific. It's horrific.
I don't think that should be controversial.
No, that's not controversial at all. And this is the thing, measured twice, cut once.
Yeah.
This is kind of crazy that could be possible. That's horrific, and that's bad for the cause. Like, the cause is, let's get the gang members out. Everybody agrees. But let's not innocent gay hairdressers get lumped up with the gangs, and then, like, how long before that guy can get out? Can we figure out how to get him out? Is there any plan in place to alert the authorities that they've made a horrible mistake and correct it?
Well, if you think about it from a government perspective, and this is where I think it gets quite sinister, is once you've done that, the incentive structure is never going to be to admit that and deal with it. The incentive structure is to say nothing, to cover it up, to pretend it didn't happen, right?
That is horrible.
So someone ends up in a black hole.
I honestly don't even know what to say. I really don't. When even the people who usually fall in line with everything MAGA does, the ones who drink the Kool-Aid, buy into the lies, when even they are calling this out, it's beyond horrific. JD Vance is out here spreading blatant lies, trying to label an innocent man as an MS-13 gang member when that's just factually false. And when a mass deportation plan is so immoral that even some of Trump's biggest enablers are distancing themselves from it. I mean, what does that tell you? Maybe it tells you that this administration is just pure evil. I have no words. I couldn't even sleep last night because this isn't some nightmare scenario. It's reality. This administration is rounding up innocent people and sending them to foreign torture prisons without a second thought. No accountability, no due process, just cruelty. And the worst part? Too many elected Democrats are staying silent. Not enough people are stepping up to say, this is a threat, this is terrifying, this could be you next. There are no checks left, no rules. They do not care. All we have left is our voices, and we have to use them. Rachel Maddow gave me a little bit of hope last night, talking about the protests where people are refusing to stay silent. Let's take a look at that right here.
Tesla takedowns popped up across the country and here in Western Washington. Linwood, University Village, Soto, South Lake Union, Fife, Bellevue, and beyond.
All the way from Linwood down to Vancouver, Washington. We just rocked it today. It was a great day.
At the U Village protest,
I am so proud to represent you.
Representative Pramila Jayapal was among those to address the demonstrators.
Musk and the Department of Greed and Evil, that's what DOGE is, the Department of Greed and Evil, have got to go.
In Washington state this weekend, Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal did turn up at an anti-Elon Musk, anti-Trump Tesla takedown rally in her district in Seattle. There were hundreds of these all over the country this weekend. In the midst of this rising tide of Americans who are angry and fearful about what's happening in Trump's second term in office, Americans increasingly willing to stand up and do something about it, Congresswoman Jayapal has also started hosting events that are designed to teach the strategy and tactics of nonviolent resistance and protest. These movements have sort of taken off on their own. She's getting specific for how to do training, practical training on how these things work, how they stay nonviolent, and how they can be most strategically effective. She's calling them resistance labs. The first one was a week and a half ago. Congressman Jayapal told a local radio station, quote, "We thought we'd have a couple hundred people. We had 850 people sign up. We had to stop people from registering because we didn't know if we had room." In the end, a crowd of about 500 people packed the building for that first in-person training. They ended up having to turn people away because they couldn't fit them in.
It appears that the Trump administration is willing to ignore judicial decisions, and so that brings us to you in this room. It brings us to the people. That is really the bulwark, the wall against the crumbling of democracy. There's really no other savior or option than the people.
This weekend, Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal decided she would hold a follow-up, a second so-called resistance lab. The Congresswoman says more than 1,500 people took part in the follow-up event this weekend. Not just people who are constituents, not just people from Washington state. She says it was 1,500 people in 31 different states.
I know this is not how you wanted to start your morning or your afternoon, and honestly, it's not how I wanted to either. This is heartbreaking. It's tough to talk about, but that just makes it even more important to call it out. And I will keep saying this. We need to push more elected Democrats to speak up right now. We cannot be silent. We will not be silent. And I promise you, we won't be quiet here. If you believe in this fight, you can support the channel by subscribing, leaving a like, and if you've made it to the end of this video, drop a heart in the comments. Until next time, I'll see you.